Your brain doesn't rest in silence. It hunts. Cut the noise from a room, and within seconds, something strange happens. Your ears start reaching. They search for anything, a hum, a creak, a heartbeat, because true silence isn't peaceful to a human nervous system. It's a threat signal. For most of human history, quiet meant one thing. Nothing is moving, which means nothing is safe to predict. A silent forest was a forest where the predator had already stopped and was watching you. So your brain built a rule, deep in the oldest parts of your skull, long before language existed. Silence equals danger, and danger equals pay attention now. That rule never got updated. You're not living in a forest anymore. But the wiring is exactly the same, which is why an empty apartment at 2 a.m. feels heavier than a busy street at noon. Which is why so many people fall asleep with the TV on, not because they're watching it, but because they can't stand the quiet. It's not a bad habit. It's ancient software running in a modern world it was never built for. Let's go deeper, because the story gets stranger the closer you look. There's a famous experiment you may have heard about, people sitting alone in a bare room. Nothing to do, no phone, no book, just their own thoughts. And a shocking number of them chose to give themselves a mild electric shock rather than sit with silence and boredom. Read that again. People opted for pain over stillness. That's how uncomfortable an unoccupied mind can be. Silence doesn't just remove sound. It removes distraction from yourself. And for a lot of people, themselves is the loudest room in the building. Here's the mechanism behind that discomfort. Your brain is a prediction machine. Every waking second, it's guessing what's about to happen next, then checking that guess against incoming signals, sound, light, movement, and correcting itself in real time. That constant guess and check loop is basically what being alert feels like from the inside. Now take away the sound. You remove a massive chunk of the data your brain uses to predict the world. And a brain with no data doesn't calm down. It panics quietly. It starts generating its own signal to fill the gap. That's why silence can make a ringing appear in your ears that wasn't there a moment ago. That's why your own thoughts get louder, more repetitive, more anxious, the second the outside world stops talking. Nature abhors a vacuum, and apparently, so does your auditory cortex. Now think about what we've built in response. Notification pings, background music in stores, autoplay on every platform, podcasts for the shower, the commute, the walk to get coffee. We call it multitasking, we call it staying entertained, but underneath, a lot of it is one simple move. Never leave the brain alone with silence long enough for it to start asking questions it doesn't want to answer. Silence has a strange side effect. It doesn't just heighten alertness. It also opens space for reflection. And reflection is where uncomfortable thoughts live. The unanswered text. The decision you're avoiding. The version of your life you're not currently living. Noise is a wall you can build between yourself and those thoughts. And modern life has handed everyone an endless supply of bricks. But here's the twist, and it's the part almost nobody talks about. Silence isn't actually the enemy. Fear of silence is. Because when researchers look at what actually happens in the brain during real sustained quiet, not one awkward minute, but real stretches of it, something completely different shows up. The default mode network, the part of your brain responsible for memory consolidation, self-reflection, and creative connection making, becomes more active in the absence of external noise. Some of your best ideas, your clearest realizations about a relationship or a problem you've been stuck on, don't happen while you're being stimulated. They happen in the gap. In the shower, on a walk with no headphones, in the 10 minutes before you fall asleep with the lights off and nothing playing. Silence isn't empty. It's where your brain finally gets the bandwidth to do the work it can't do while it's busy processing a podcast, a scroll, a notification. So why does it still feel unbearable at first? Because you've trained your nervous system to treat quiet as a starting gun. The second it goes silent, your mind sprints toward a worry, a memory, a mental to-do list. because it's not used to idling. Athletes talk about this in a different context. The body that's never allowed to rest doesn't know how to recover, and eventually it breaks down in ways that show up as fatigue, injury, burnout. Your brain works the same way. A mind that never gets silence doesn't know how to downshift. It just runs hot, all day, every day, and calls that normal. Then it wonders why it's exhausted by 3 p.m., despite doing nothing physically demanding at all. There's a cultural angle here too, and it's worth sitting with for a second. In a lot of modern environments, silence has been rebranded as awkward. A pause in conversation gets rushed to fill. Dead air on a call feels like something went wrong. Kids are rarely bored anymore because a screen is always one arm's reach away, and boredom, which used to be the doorway into imagination, has been almost engineered out of daily life. We've collectively decided that quiet is a problem to be solved rather than a state to be tolerated. And the tools we've built to solve it are also the tools training an entire generation to be uncomfortable with their own unoccupied mind. And that discomfort has a cost. Chronic low-level noise exposure, traffic, open offices, constant notifications has been linked to elevated stress responses over time. Your body doesn't. Fully distinguish between background hum and background threat. It treats sustained noise as sustained low-grade alertness, which means sustained low-grade cortisol, which means a nervous system that never fully exhales. Silence, when you can actually tolerate it, is one of the only reliable ways to let that system power down. Which is deeply ironic, because the very thing your ancient brain flags as dangerous is, in the modern world, often the thing your body most desperately needs. So what do you do with all this? Not some dramatic silent retreat, not throwing out your headphones. Just this. Notice the reflex. The next time a room goes quiet and your hand instinctively reaches for a phone, a remote, anything to fill the gap, pause for 1 second before you do it. That reach is the ancient alarm system firing. It's not telling you something is wrong. It's just an old alert that never got the memo that the forest is gone. Sit in the quiet a little longer than feels comfortable, and something interesting tends to happen. The panic fades. The thoughts you were avoiding surface, get looked at, and often lose their weight simply by being seen. And underneath all of that noise you were avoiding, there's usually something quieter and more useful waiting. An idea, a decision, a piece of clarity you couldn't hear over the sound of everything else. Your brain doesn't actually hate silence. It hates the unknown that silence used to represent. But you're not in that forest anymore. And the next time the room goes quiet, that might not be a threat creeping in. It might be the one moment all day your mind finally gets to hear itself think.